A lot of it depends on your quarterback,
It's a
too. That's what we're
different
going with our next topic. It's brought to us by DoorDash. It's almost the weekend, guys. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash, just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Quinshon Judkins is our delivery player of the week for his fourth quarter heroics, scoring the touchdown, breaking those 2 long runs. He was incredible in the Browns win, and we're going to talk a little bit more about him in the WKYC show coming up in a few minutes. Just like Quinshon delivered for the Browns, DoorDash delivers for your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms do apply. The promo period runs through November 18th. All right, guys, we have seen the ups and downs of Joe Flacco already this season. He played relatively solid game against Cincinnati in the opener, and he has not been, frankly, very good in the next 2 games. Jason, against Detroit's secondary and defense, which has been a little susceptible this year, what version of Flacco do you think we'll see from the Browns on Sunday?
I don't think he can be worse than he's been. Honestly, I'm not trying to be funny. I think we've seen the bottom. And, I've heard lately, he didn't get a ton of reps in the preseason because they were having a 4-way quarterback battle. Well, we were told you didn't need a ton of reps.
That's right.
So which is it? But I do think that there's a factor of trying to get into the groove, trying to get in rhythm. Well, we're enough into the season now, that should no longer be a factor. So I don't think he'll play worse. I think what we saw in Baltimore is probably as poorly as Joe Flacco can play. And I thought...
Did he play worse than Green Bay?
No. I mean, I don't know what the numbers say.
Yeah.
Being there, seeing both games,
okay,
Baltimore was far worse than I thought than Green Bay. And statistically, at some of the advanced numbers, the Baltimore game was one of the top 10 worst performances of his career. So
it's going the wrong direction.
Yeah. So I don't think it will be that bad. I do think we're inching closer and closer to Dylan Gabriel. I wonder if we see him Sunday. I wouldn't totally rule it out. That's just me. No one said anything. That's just, I think we're sort of headed to that territory. So, look, they got to protect him. They got to get better tackle play. And the line's been abysmal, but the primary triage area right now is the tackles. So if they can get competent tackle play and give him just a half second longer, it's going to help. So I'm not expecting much, but I think we've seen the worst. I don't think it can get worse than what we've seen.
I hope you're right on that. I'm afraid.
Yeah.
I'm afraid there could be worse football from them.
Baltimore knows them better than anybody. Baltimore to me,
do.
that was
they do.
That was
hard to look at.
That was
really hard to look at. I hope you're right. I hope that's as low as it goes for me. And I'll tie into your second comment too, because that's where I was going to go with this. What's the offensive line going to do?
Yeah.
That will tell us what happens. If the offensive line performs like they did last week, we're going to get another similar performance. He's slow. He can't move. He's a sitting duck back there. So if you add that with 2.5 seconds to throw, you've got a train wreck. But if the offensive line is a little bit better, by the way, Aiden Hutchinson is going to get after it. He's coming.
Yeah.
Because when these guys play a combo bad line, slow quarterback like this, they're salivating coming out of the tunnel. He's thinking, I could pad my stats today. I could get 3. So they're coming. And it all depends on the offensive line. If they give him, if you see Joe able to set his feet in the backfield and look off through his progression of receivers, I think he could be effective. If he's moving the entire time he has the football, it's going to be awful.
I think I said this last week. I don't think it was Monday, but it's worth repeating when we talk offensive line. I do think a little bit more mobile quarterback makes the offensive line look not as bad.
1,000%.
And we saw that last year when everyone was screaming about the offensive line with Deshaun, and as soon as Jameis went in there, all the complaints about the offensive line went away. Nobody talked about it anymore.
And it's not like Jameis is a rabbit.
But he was where he was supposed to be,
move.
And the ball was coming out.
Yes.
And it's like, it's the little, and I'm not saying this with Joe, it was last year. Like, the offensive line is their back to the quarterback. You have to stand where you're supposed to be standing to set up the protections. Gee, you know that better than anybody. If the quarterback isn't where he's supposed to be, the offensive lineman turns around and goes, and you gave up a sack, and you're like, well, dude, why are you there? You weren't supposed to be there.
Right.
And that was a lot of the problems they were running into last year, and just Joe's immobility. I'm not saying he's in the wrong spot this year, just his immobility is really a factor in this. So if you get a quarterback that can move a little bit, it's going to make the line play look not elite necessarily, but it's going to look better.
Watch the Cardinals game. Anybody watch the game last night?
Very little, just a little bit.
I watched the second half, and it was amazing to me. I watched enough of the second half to know that Kyler Murray looked like he was dead in the water. Dead. And they scored 2 late touchdowns, got a field goal, and won the game.
Yeah.
It was an incredible comeback. And so I was asking myself, okay, well, what changed? Well, what changed was a sense of urgency that the offense absolutely had to convert. And I think that always makes a difference. That's why
Seattle still won.
Yeah, Seattle did win. I'm sorry,
Right.
but
They made it a game.
The comeback
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
what am I looking at here?
Right,
Because
right, yeah.
their offense was non-existent, and then all of a sudden they had 2 really nice drives.
Yeah.
Marvin Harrison had like 1
Back
catch
from the dead.
over 3 quarters. Had a great second half, but during those 2 touchdown drives, I just kept saying, okay, what's different? Well, Kyler Murray was moving, and that's a guy that can move. And all of a sudden, the pass rush was ineffective. They were still getting home, but they weren't getting to him because he was sliding, taking a step, moving in the pocket, buying more time, throwing on the run. And the next thing you know, touchdown drive, game is tied. And that looked completely unthinkable just in the first 3.5 quarters.
Well, it's tough because I just go back to this. There's at some point the Cleveland Browns have to understand there have been multiple teams that have come to this conclusion quicker than you have. The Baltimore Ravens came to that conclusion. The New York Jets came to that conclusion. The Denver Broncos came to that conclusion. Oh, by the way, the Indianapolis Colts came to that conclusion.
You yourself came to that conclusion 2 years ago.
So you done came to all those conclusions, and then you ran it back, and then now you trying to say, can it get worse? Yes, it can get worse. Here's how it can get worse. He can throw more interceptions. We've seen the 3. So that and Kevin Stefanski knows it can get worse because that is why he's checking the football down at an alarming rate. The reality of the situation is Cornelius Lucas, I went back yesterday just to take a look at it. He can't bend. Guys are even with him before he gets out of his stance. But he's, 34?
35.
35?
I
He's
think,
34, 35. He's a backup swing tackle. If he's playing right now for you, you're in trouble. The other tackle graded out at a 14% in pass rush, right? Then there's times where you're trying to keep Dylan Sampson in to block with him, and 2 guys could not block. They couldn't. 2 guys was on Micah Parsons, and they didn't touch him. It was nasty work. So you got a recipe for a bunch of trouble. When you don't have tackles, your quarterback is slow. He has a propensity to throw interceptions. And by the way, he hasn't been accurate this year. That's why I keep continuously always say, at some point, you can't coach play in your fears, and I get it. There's this thing about rookies not being ready and all this other stuff. Listen, it's malpractice to keep running somebody out there that you know is not good just because you don't want to go to an alternative. These guys are on the team for a reason. Give yourself an opportunity. Have confidence in your coaching ability to get them ready. Have confidence in the people you drafted and play them. Because this is not tenable. You're just doing this just to, I don't understand. At this point, I've even lost all of the fire about it. It's just, to me at this point, it's confusing why people would say he gives you the best chance, Bull. I don't know.
Bernie was on with us yesterday, and Bernie said that he wouldn't play Dylan Gabriel because the talent around him on the offense is so bad that he thinks Dylan Gabriel would have no chance. And he's probably right. Bernie would know better than anybody. Part of me is like, well, who cares? Let's see it anyway. Because
YOLO.
Think about this, right?
Yeah.
How great is the talent going to get from the end of this year to next year when you do get a rookie who's going to play?
But either way, if you're going to play Dylan Gabriel in week 6,
it ain't get no better.
the talent's still going to stink around him.
It could be worse. You could have more injuries by
Exactly.
Thank you.
You know, I mean, maybe Jack Conklin would be back by then, so maybe it'll be a little better on the offensive line. I
Any
don't
word
know.
on that, Jay?
Only that I knew it was going to be multiple weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe next week.
Maybe.
And with Dylan Gabriel, the right tackle's actually more important because he's a lefty.
Sure.
So maybe that would help, I guess. But, like, what happens if by the time they're ready to play him that Jerry Judy's hurt or Quinshon Judkins is hurt, or they suspend Quinshon Judkins out of the blue? I
think fans are results oriented. W or L.
Yeah.
That's where it starts, and then you look at production. I do think that our fans are, I hope, smart enough to understand that if you think you're going to drop Dylan Gabriel in there and we're going to look like a playoff team all of a sudden offensively,
no.
that is an unrealistic expectation.
Yeah.
Could it happen? Sure it could. The Guardians just ripped off the most unbelievable comeback in sports history. That's why we watch sports, because we never know. But the likelihood, and that's why I say, please temper your expectations. The likelihood that you take Joe out and drop Dylan in, and all of a sudden all your ills are fixed, that's not happening.
No, there's almost no chance of that happening. But I think as a fan, you'd rather see the unknown
That
than
is
the
it.
guy
Yeah.
you're like, okay, it's just like
What you're
We
doing
know
isn't
what this
working.
looks
yeah,
like.
it's not working.
What
He's
might this
old.
look like?
What? Let's see it.
And
Maybe
in-
it will be that
in-
1% chance.
In 20, when
Yeah.
they made that move early out of necessity with Baker, we all got the fever. We all saw it. We're like, oh gosh, we haven't had quarterback play like that. I remember that first game against the Jets.
Monday Night Football or
The
Thursday
stadi-
Night Football?
I think it was
Can't remember.
Thursday night.
Yeah.
Thursday.
I have been in the stadium for a lot of great and amazing things, but the buzz leaving that stadium
Oh, yeah. I
was
felt
like
it.
you had just woke up someone that was sleeping for 30 years.
Yeah.
And they suddenly thought, we have a chance again. Now, could that happen with Dylan Gabriel? It could. It happened. We saw it with Baker. Is it unlikely? I think it's more unlikely than not.
One was the
Way
number
more
one pick,
unlikely.
and one was the third round.
That's
Way
why,
more unlikely
That's why
than
it's
not.
way more unlikely.
I would give it a-
But here's the thing. I'm not ready to completely say, oh, no, it can't happen, because I just watched something happen in baseball that's never happened before.
Yeah.
Like, that's why we love sports. We
Yeah.
go to a game, and there's a chance we're going to see something that's never happened before, and that might happen with Dylan Gabriel.
Guys, in sports, you have to. I don't think people understand this. Like, you don't get anything by conservative. That's not how sports works. It's annoying because you have to expect the extraordinary to win every single week. You have to have a level of faith in your process and what you are doing to be able to win at the highest levels. And if you want to win at the highest levels, it's not getting somebody else's retread quarterback that's 41 and just starting them and being like, that's good enough for us. Why is that good enough for you? It wasn't good enough for the Colts. The Colts could have did exactly what we did, right? Anthony Richardson, watch this. Anthony Richardson was a first-round pick. If he was in Cleveland, they would still be playing him. You know why? Because he was a first-round pick. But guess what the Colts did? The Colts said, you are a first-round pick, but you look like you done digressed. That hit in the preseason, they said, you don't even know how to read defenses. So here's what we're going to do. We already tried to replace you once with Joe. We brought him in. We figured out he was cooked. We brought Daniel Jones in. We got him. We going to cook with him.
Now, in fairness, you could argue he's a retread also,
But
not as old.
But
he's playing well. We'll
think
see
about
if it lasts. But
him as a retread, he's
Yeah.
faster. Listen, he's more mobile. He can do a bunch of things that Joe Flacco can.
That's true.
Right? So
Wait a minute. If last year I gave you the choice between Daniel Jones or Joe Flacco to come here, everybody on this panel would have taken Joe Flacco.
Yes.
Watch this.
Yes.
Watch this. Here's
That's
the
true.
thing.
I don't know that I would have. But
I would not have.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
want him back.
That could be necessarily true, right? But once you find out what Joe is, it's time to go. I ain't got no time to be half-stepping and playing. You saw 3 games. You saw what it was. This idea that Joe deserves this long leash, that he's going to, if the Browns win games that they wasn't supposed to win because the defense is great, Joe's out there for 6-7 more weeks. What is that? No. That ain't going to work for you.
No, he won't play 6 or 7 more weeks. Beyond this, no.
So we was on the show. I said, listen, I know how Stefanski is. Stefanski is a very calculated. He calculated. If Stefanski does not really want to move to the rookies, he's going to find a reason not to move to the rookies. If, say, for instance, the Browns upset the Lions, now that means they done beat the Lions and the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
That means to me you're not seeing no rookie play until dang near week 9 or 10.
I would second that.
I think you kind of have to ride it out at that point.
At that point,
I mean, if
ride-
you beat the Packers and Lions in back-to-back weeks, and the Lions on the road,
and you were
that means you're
you were a
getting
missed
something
kick
out of your
from
offense.
beating Cincinnati.
So
Yeah,
you're
you're
not
almost
seeing-
3-1 at that
You're
point.
not seeing nobody. You talk about week 10, 12, if that. So that's the point. The point is,
Good. That's a better problem to have. Let's win.
if you take those, here's the thing. What did they tell us it was about though, Jason?
What did Jason tell us?
It was
And he's
tell
right.
us about
It's about next year.
next year.
Exploratory season. We got to find out what we have.
yeah.
However, if there's winning happening, I mean, it's just
You can't
change a quarterback
But
when you're winning.
let's keep it real here. All right? The Browns, right or wrong, they're already convinced that they have to get a quarterback next year, that they don't have the
I
insurance.
agree with you, Bull.
Now,
I agree.
doesn't mean they're right, but that's
No,
what they feel.
in their mind, they believe that their quarterback of the future is not on this.
Yes.
Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, not at all.
That's the way I see it.
yeah, that's definitely true.
I think I told you this. I think I texted it to you because everyone's like, well, these quarterbacks suck. This quarterback class sucks. Where's the quarterback? Where's the quarterback? Where's the quarterback? No one has told me this directly. I just get the sense and the feeling there is, because I agree. Like, so far, the you don't look at this quarterback class as this
No
is
one
gonna
has
be an
separated
all-time
themselves
historic
for
class.
sure.
So to that, I say, number one, it's early.
September.
And number two, I just get the sense being around them that they have one or two guys that they like. I don't know who they are. I'm not going to know who they are. I'm never going to find out
They
who
won't
they are.
say it.
And
No,
it
of
doesn't
course
mean they're
not.
right
No.
about it.
It doesn't mean they're right about it. But
Yeah.
I just get the sense. And the other thing I told you is you just don't know. You never know what they're looking for in the NFL. It's not what we see.
No.
It's not what we're looking for. And the point I made to you, people are going to freak out. Nobody was talking about Josh Allen when he was at Wyoming in September of his senior. And I'm not saying there's a Josh Allen in this draft. I'm not saying that.
No, I know where
what
you're
I'm
going,
saying
though. You're
is-
right. He emerged late.
and there are traits that these teams look for in quarterbacks that the average college football fan watching on Saturday isn't seeing those guys or isn't seeing those traits. And I don't know who they are. I just get to say, and I don't know what. I assume it's this
What
class.
year's the Indiana kid?
He's a senior. Super
He's
Okay.
eligible. He's eligible.
I've heard his name being mentioned as a guy that, again, could have the NFL skill set. Maybe he's their guy.
I have no idea. I just get the sense, and again, no one has said this directly. It's just sort of a feel of knowing how they operate and being around certain people. I just think that they've got one or two people that they've got their eye on. I don't know who it is. I don't know when. And who's to say that doesn't change? Like, it's September. By November, whoever they think they like, they may not like anymore.
And we will never know.
And you'll never know.
Never know.
Right.